Welcome to another episode of the True Beast Podcast, brought to you by xdog.com, where you can find crafted kibble, freeze-dried treats and toppers, and supplements that go above and beyond industry standards. So if you're looking to enhance your dog's overall health and fitness, check out xdog.com. And today, of course, I got my boy Trevor here with me. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm good so far.
So today's topic, we're going to talk about the importance of mentorships. Mentors matter. And, mentorship has helped me out a lot in life. I've been at this game, this dog game for almost 18 years, right? And it wasn't until I actually invested into some mentors or went out and seek some mentorship where I really hit that pivotal change in business and in life. And I noticed that you're getting back into the breeding game, right? And so one of the things that you kind of always fall back on, you get really passionate about is talking to people who have successfully done the things that you're trying to do. So why did you go out and seek mentorship instead of doing what most people do, where they go buy a dog, they buy a popular dog, right? And they go buy another popular dog, and I'll spring off another popular dog, right? And they're going, I'm going to put these two dogs together, and I'm going to create this dog, and I'm going to create my own line. Why did you go out and get mentorship?
So for one, I knew first and foremost, you cannot buy a popular dog. That's the dumbest thing you could do. Riding on someone's coattail is not how you achieve success. Apple's still Apple if LeBron or whoever never picked up an iPhone. And it's as good as its product. So for me, going back was like, what's going on in the game? Who's at the top, and what do I need to know at this moment in time? Because I know for one thing, the dogs are messed up. So me talking to people who've done it 1,000 times says, hey, what are we testing for right now? And they're like, all these new tests exist. Hysteria specifically, for Frenchies and we patellas for Frenchie. Man, I didn't know the Frenchies needed OFA and all this other stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so you learn very quickly to ensure longevity, because no breeder wants that phone call that, hey, we're 5 years in, 2 years in, 1 year in, the pup we just bought for $7,000, $10,000 is dead. So I learned very long ago as a kid, just from upbringing, to be clear, that pride comes before you fail. And if you're foolish enough to believe you know everything or can do everything on your own, you will not be successful, not in anything for that matter.
Yeah.
So it's important for me personally to always talk to people and learn from them, especially if they're willing to, speak with you and see what we can do together collectively. And that's how the dog game was originally. Dave Wilson and those guys, they literally were breeding dogs, giving them to each other, doing, hey, you do this breeding, do that breeding, just to get to a certain place where, Razor's Edge became a household name. It wasn't a money game back in the day.
Yeah.
And even now, some of my guys have built literally like a dog union where they're going to breed to each other's dogs to put the right coefficients in effect to get a specific look.
Yeah.
So the smart ones, they let's really get back to building this bloodline stuff out. Let's really get back to focusing on breed type. Let's really get back to bettering the dog. And that requires us learning from each other, and most importantly, working with each other.
Yeah, I think that's always been an epidemic, and it's even getting worse now, where it's just probably being highlighted more just because of social media in general.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot of people, man, they're willing to take advice from people who've never done it, because it almost fits the narrative of their thought, you know what I mean? And then accepting the hard truth of maybe your dog has these flaws. I know in mentorship, when I was seeking mentorship, I always looked for someone who was doing something better than me, right, in an area that I wanted to grow in. So when it came to you, what were you looking for in mentorship?
Well, I like mentors that are, most of my mentors have been investors as well.
Yeah.
And it's just like for those who watch Shark Tank, you don't take money from someone who sells technology if you sell, services and something like Goop or some shit, some soap or something. And you can take the money, but that's not their specialty, right?
Yeah.
So somebody sells clothes, normally they want to deal with David John. Why? Because he's got 30 years of dealing with retail and bringing things to market, right? You want tech, you talk to Hersheyback or Cuban, right?
Sure.
And then if anything child related or just, business in general, a lot of times they'll deal with O'Leary. That being said, for me, when I wanted to know about healthcare, I met a guy named Dan Tassin. He has a $500 million business, and I had direct access to him as early as 5 o'clock in the morning when he woke up. And he's the only person that was ever smarter than me in that regard. He was 60-something at the time. So a lot of times when I seek mentors, I like people who are obsessed.
Yeah.
I almost have like a Rain Man personality when it comes to things.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we kind of segue into that, because you had mentioned, like, it kind of seems like you're identifying people who specialize really well in a certain area, right?
I love specialists, and I mean real specialists. Not the people who say, "Oh, I have a specialist." I'm talking about motherfuckers whose lives depend on it.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that I had to learn from my mentors is like, we kind of get told all the time, you got to have multiple streams of income, which can be true, but the timing of that is important. You have to go, what really helped me out is going all in on X-Talk.
Yeah.
All in, become completely obsessed, have an obsession of X-Talk to where I was doing it and not making money. You know what I mean? Because I believed in the vision so much. And I think a lot of people get the misconception, like, okay, maybe they want to do this thing and they want to do that. Like, hey, I want to start a business here, but I also want to go get a job and I also want to, tap into real estate, right? So they're not all in on one thing. So they're doing everything 70, 80%.
Man, I literally saved a video that I'm probably going to post later of a guy, and I don't know his name. He's not a Grant Cardone, but he sounds like it. He said, what's crazy is people tell you don't go buy the Benz, live below your means. He said, I don't got that fucking story. I didn't have the money, but I went and bought a car that made me feel like $1 million. And every time I had to pay that car note, it made me make one more fucking phone call.
Yeah.
And some people don't. There's a couple different ways to, achieve success or get into the mentality of being successful. And sometimes it's putting your life on the line and saying, look, I'm knocking on doors 3 in the morning until somebody calls the police because I've got to eat. My kids have got to eat. Or it's the people who really just, kind of have some backing, some support. Somebody might own a house. You can live there and just kind of focus on your thing. But you in my opinion, you need to be backed in a corner and have to believe in it. And Herjavec does a great job over the past, I think, 12 seasons, always saying, like, he was right there deciding he was going to quit or not, and literally he got fired.
Yeah.
He had to pay his bills, and then getting fired that created that monster.
Yeah, because your back's against the wall. It seems like, man, a lot of people try to avoid that adversity and pain. And, the dog game is, I think people, they only see the highlights of the dog game, like, the production at the end. But I see some posts that you had, I was like, I don't know if breeding's ever in my future. Holy shit!
It gets them every time. But the guys in my they say, man, that's the truth. I said, the people don't ever post that shit. I said, bruh, this shit is not easy, man. And this shit happens every fucking 5 seconds. You literally can change out 5 pads and put 2 down, and it's shit.
Okay, let's say somebody did want to get into breeding. What would be? Let's go. Top 3 things you would suggest that they do before even considering it.
For one, back to what we're talking about today, and that's get a mentor. And Ruben is one of mine, especially on the Frenchie side. He suggests that to everybody, which is why without ever finding him at first, I'm like, I gotta go find the best.
Yeah.
Second thing was, do not assume that because you bought a dog that at a high price or from some big breeder, that dog is gonna make you a lot of money. You need vision like anything in life.
Yeah.
So you need to say, hey, I asked one of my buddies, what's gonna be the name of your bloodline? And he was like, man, I even thought that far ahead. You go, okay. But we got to think about that, because if you don't do this right, you'll back yourself in the corner and won't be able to grow. So you got to know where you want to take the dog. So that means you have to have an understanding of the dog. And number 3, do your research. Do your research. If you don't know, I saw, again, you posted something this morning. I did a duet with a guy who does a very good job on TikTok, informing people about dog behavior, dog training, etc. Yeah. And if you don't know what your dog's supposed to do, as he said, walk in your fucking German Shepherd for 20 minutes and wonder why it's tearing shit up. Yeah. That ain't the mission, man. That ain't the mission. So you got to do your research, know what you're getting involved in, so you can actually better your dog and keep your house safe. Yeah,
it all goes back, that video, he was talking about a lot of the reasons why your dog is, destructive around the house or, severely hyper, right? And it all has to do with, I would say, 100% of the trainers I've always talked to said it's probably 90% linked back to dogs not being exercised enough or not being mentally stimulated enough,
What's crazy is at 6 this morning, I'll show you my phone, my homegirls literally texted me that same video. She said, this sounds exactly like what you're always saying. Look, I tell everybody, I'm coming for everybody's heads. These are people who don't even have dogs. Yeah. Who you won't even see around me, but they just know. And I'm like, you need to fucking take that dog out. Even if I'm like stopping by, I know him. That dog fucking needs some stimulation, it needs some training, it needs some development, it needs character, it needs so many things that people are not willing to put the time in and wonder why the dog is, respectfully worthless.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy because, when like I said in the video, the number 1 reason why I invented the X-Dog Weight and Fitness Vest was to literally make exercising extremely convenient. Like I said, if you have 30 seconds a day, right, that's how long it takes to put the vest on and probably take it off, and that's if you're slow at it, right?
Yeah.
That's if you're slow at it. As soon as that vest is on, the dog is employed. Every inch is earned. Every movement's earned. And so if you're just a lazy dog owner, and no offense, but that's what it is, right? If you're not taking the time, you're not investing time into your dogs, you're a lazy dog owner. Like, that's just what it is. If you don't have 30 seconds a day, I can't fucking help you.
Exactly. So on the mentor side, one thing I wanted to ask you as well is, a lot of times people, it's got to be someone you respect.
Yeah.
And so I got into it with one of them one time, and not into it, but he was saying something, and I was fussing about my uncle, and he said one line, and I was like, every time they hit me with something, it was like, damn. It was like that, but you respect them, so nobody's arguing in the sense where you're raising your voice, but I didn't want my uncle to be clear, he got into trouble, and they wanted me to see him, like his son in a sense. I said, man, and he said, one thing, he said, Trump, the Bible says visit the prison, and there was no doubt in my mind I had to go see this guy now.
Yeah.
And like I said, this guy was all around, he was like me, just way older, and he respected me, he said it many times, I've never met anyone at your age as smart as you are. But it goes back to that respect. So what's one of those definitive conversations you had? And Tim Callahan, another guy, Jesus Christ, man, that motherfucker. Coach probably set me straight 3 or 4 times, and he did it in ways that was so humble. Like and it was a respect thing. I remember one time he said, did you have him do that? No. Hey man, and then he started cussing some kid out. But and he always, if I was around or in his program or doing whatever, he showed me the respect, and he's the teacher, he's the head coach, but he was like, he knew my value as well, and he corrected me many times, and even to the point of, patting people on the back. I've got this thing about perfection, you're not doing it, fuck you. So I had trouble, and I'd leave a whole 120 kids and be like, I'd love to tell you a good job today, but you can fucking do better. And he said, listen man, he said, you kicking these kids that nobody's working harder than them. And this is a true story because they went in one state, football, 6A football in Kansas. He says, but you gotta tell me you're doing a good job sometimes. And that hit home. I go, you know what, you're right, coach. I know 1,000 other kids couldn't get through this shit.
Well, speaking of that, like, that's one thing I learned from one of my mentors, Andy Furcell and my lad. It's like, when things are going good in business, that's when you gotta say, hey, shit ain't going good. But when things are going bad, you gotta kind of say, okay, you gotta lift your team up some. You know what I mean? And a lot of people don't do that. Like again, my hardship growing up, I've had to learn to be a little bit more sympathetic and understand the climate culture of how kids are raised today, or people are raised today, because you got to think about it, man. We grew up in an era where we had to earn. Like, if I lost a race, I lost the fucking race. I didn't get a participation trophy. But now people are getting.
My dad was laughing at me.
Man, there's so many people who are getting participation trophies now that are in their 20s now, in their 30s, and they almost feel entitled, right? And if you're going to get in the dog game, there's no participation trophies whatsoever, right? Like,
it's just a lot of fucking money, to be clear. I think that's the part where we call them 2-year breeders. Somebody who thinks they're going to make all this money in 2 years and realize very quickly, because again, you don't know what you're up against if you don't do your research. You're out. You was in and you were out, and it happens every day. Every day.
Well, it's one of those things, man. As you know, I'm purchasing I call them a collection of bullies, dogs that I really like and admire. I got some that are lined up. Of course, I got Bravado, and he was a dog that I watched for that program. I watched it for a long time in the direction, and one of the big directions that really stood out to me was that they were trying to improve the standard and the cleanliness of the dog. Like, they even have like some, I forget what they're actually called, but basically it's like an exotic micro but cleaned up, right? Like, it has some there's some standards to it, and that to me stood out because I know, okay, they're playing long ball. They're playing they're looking for the longevity. It wasn't a money grab. Now the byproduct of that is they're getting a shit ton of money, and it's like that little union that's all together. They're all working together. They're winning championships in the show ring. They're also producing dogs that people like to purchase. Like, we had talked about Remy before. Remy never won any championships in the show ring. No. The dog was a valuable dog though, right? Man. Like, people fucking spend money on it. And then you got to understand there's certain languages, especially in the dog community, where you have to understand what's a money dog, what's a show dog, and how to balance both, right?
Absolutely. And you got to breed to show. That's expensive.
Yeah.
You gotta breed, and most of the time they all gotta be somewhat aesthetically pleasing.
Mm-hmm.
Every now and then if you breed, you'll have a very pretty dog.
Yeah.
And that dog is something you gotta showcase. But you got some raccoons that throw some pretty dogs.
Yeah.
Don't run from them ugly dogs. Them ugly dogs like two ugly people get together.
Well, when you,
Light skinned baby.
if you had looked at Remy's parents, right? I mean, Blue was pleasing, but when you looked at what he produced in Remy's, Remy didn't look like any of his parents, I don't think.
But it was the bloodline.
Yeah.
That goes back to even Fabian taking him to, I believe, his half sister when he did the first breeding, and then he took him to another dog that was like non-related. He goes, damn, he's hitting twice.
Yeah.
And he's throwing consistency. Remy Line used to be a 90-pound dog with a 25-inch head worldwide all
Yeah.
the time. If you took the Remy, that's what you were going to get all day, every day, and that was.
You know what was really crazy? So they had bred Remy to a dog named Gina Jules, right?
Yeah.
And Gina Jules was a part of a litter that my friend Ray wasn't supposed to get, right? It was one of these dogs that a guy, Cruz, had sold it to one of his friends, and his friend ended up selling it to Ray, right? And so when I was able to get like 3 of those dogs from the litter, but the dog that I had was named Shogun. He was 105 pounds. You know, and Remy
solid muscle.
No, he was solid. Like and honestly, like when I was homeless, I survived off that dog. Literally I would breed him, sell first picks, get 7 to 8 grand for those first picks, or I'd sell stud fees for 5 grand. And I survived that whole entire year. That's why my connection with that dog when he passed away, it was a real connection because he saved my life, literally. It was just one of those weird things.
And it's crazy is I heard a guy watch a 2-hour conversation about a guy who was deep rooted in pit bulls. I'm talking like he takes it so personal. He only wants to talk about the real pit bulls, not the bullshit in America, like the real pit bulls. The one thing they said, and it just goes back to kind of what you're saying. Who's your greatest mentor? He said, my dogs. He said, you ever want to learn something? Listen to your dog. You want to know what your dog needs? Listen to your dog. Work with your dog. Work with your dog. Believe in your dog.
You know what Caesar says? Dogs don't lie.
They don't.
They don't lie.
And that's something that my grandfather taught me when he was so. I haven't done even a video of my obsession with dogs, but it just comes from those stories.
Yeah.
That my grandfather told me as a kid. I'm like, I gotta get some fucking dogs, and I convinced him to give me some.
Yeah.
Back in the day, but he wouldn't give me a pit bull. He was like, nah.
Yeah.
He had one, but wouldn't let me have one. But as soon as I got old enough.
Yeah, and so it's kind of crazy going back to like my collection. Like now I'm in a position where I can actually collect dogs and do it for myself and enjoy the dogs, right? And I have access to. I have some. If I would tell people some of these breeders and some of these breedings that people just want to give me the dogs.
Yep.
I'm talking like people would spend 20, 30, 40 grand for these dogs, right? The reason why I'm able to get access to those dogs is because I created a platform to build value.
Yep.
I bring something to the table. So, when I started Muscle Boy in 2012, we're going into 2022, right? I built a platform, a reputable brand, quality products, and those breeders found value in that, And so, I think a lot of people get in this game, man, and they go in, they're like, okay, I want to buy these popular dogs and I just deserve to be successful. I expect the breeder to promote the dog for me. I expect the breeder to set up breedings for me, and all this, the whole 9 yards, you know what I mean? What do you think about those expectations, and do you think that's a big problem right now?
I think it's unrealistic for one, but I definitely think it's a problem because, for instance, I love Cat that's over there, Bossy, and anybody who buys a Bossy dog puts Bossy so-and-so in their name right away. And it's like, bro, just breed your shit, man. Okay, you bought a Bossy dog. You want to know why none of your dogs ever turn out the way Bossy does? Because she has a formula that she's worked on for 10 years. You're never going to outbreed her. You're never going to outbreed a Bossy dog. And it's even like, Andre over there, I think his name's Andre, or DDK. I don't necessarily like those dogs a lot, but that's his thing. That's what he does. You're never going to outbreed a DDK dog.
You're talking about
Dynasty, yeah.
Marlon,
that's his name, Marlon.
Adrian's another guy who produces big ass blue XLs.
Exactly. It's the big guys, you go, man.
Yeah.
Their names they always look the same, about the same size.
Wow. Yeah, you and Jamarcus look the same.
But I do think that people keep buying things and unfortunately hoping for the best, and hope don't get you shit without work.
All right, so you've had a couple litters, right?
Yeah.
How many litters have you had in the past year?
Just 2.
All right. Share your experience with each litter and the pros and cons and the ups and downs and What'd you learn from each litter?
Oh, now mind you, people, I've been doing this for 15 years. I mean, I've had litters over the past 10 years. Before this, I just couldn't. Even when I got back in, one of my kids, I called them my kids. Trip, you had all the dogs.
Yeah.
I literally had them all. So my experience was, I mean, it's exactly what I expected. I told my kennel partners who were sitting here that these dogs would be smart. I told them that they would look like this. When we used Earl de Merle, there was a lot of information I had to get from Chris, which is the owner over at Transformation Kennels, to yield this result. These are some of the best pups Earl has had. So we had success because I don't like big litters either. Somebody call like 8 or 9 plus. I'm like, fuck that.
6, right?
I'm like 5, 6, maybe 7, past 8. I'm gonna throw up.
Yeah.
And so the same thing with the Frenchies now.
Yeah.
I like that there's 6 Frenchies, literally 3 boys and 3 girls.
Yeah.
There are variations of sizes and things. I don't know a lot about the Frenchies, but in the bully side, we've got 2 more breedings coming up. I believe, again, based on my mentors, based on the things that I know historically about the dog and what the dog can do, what's in the dog, I know how to pull it out. And it's also because I know how to read a pedigree.
Yeah.
I literally know how to read a pedigree down to the coefficients. And if you guys want to learn more about that, go look up Dr. Sewell. In the 1920s, he wrote the whole everything about coefficients and how they impact cows, chickens, etc. And people took that information and used it in the dog space. So a lot of times people don't want to do the research.
Yeah.
And well, I mean, in the last, you say, what's been your experience? You know, Instagram's not an indicator of success because I sold the dogs without having Instagram, but just in August, now in, October, we had 100 followers. Now we're upwards of 900, and it's only because I put out information.
All right, so I mean, you read dogs 15 years ago, right? Or you've been doing it for 15 years, and then having social media now as a platform, as a gateway to, show off your brand and vision. Is it easier to move pups, or?
Of course, because people basically get to look at what I call a digital footprint, and that's even what we're doing here at X Talk. Every time, Stan and myself get on here, you guys can literally click one thing, and because you know who we are and what we look like, you can go and look at everything else that exists about us. So the digital footprint is what makes and breaks, in my opinion, the program. And I don't just post pictures of dogs, I post videos of the dogs moving, working, etc.
Yeah.
And then I post reels, lives, stories, facts, things you can challenge me on and go and see for yourself. So it's an equalizer because we all have the same tool, but some of us just use it better.
How important is it to go see the dog?
Oh, if you know what you're looking for, you should see the dog. If you don't know what you're looking for, you just won't care. You're like, I just want that. Like the people in the Frenchie space, they care more about color than health.
Do you think that hurts the breed?
Which one?
Color. And well, obviously health does not help the breed, but like, for example, do you think color chasing versus structure chasing really affects all breeds, I guess?
Well, I mean, in the Frenchie space, because it is a man-made breed, I would say because they're harping on that, you start going, God damn, these, and mind you, if you go buy a car, Audi A5, it says, hey, the gas on this thing could cost you $5,000 a year. I'm not paying $5,000 in gas a year. That's what an average person. I drive fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
So when you look at a Frenchie, right around year 7 and 8, if you bought it for $10K, which is market standard.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon for you to have to spend $15,000 to $3,000 just on a laser surgery to open up its nasal passages so it can breathe as it gets older.
Yeah.
Soft palates, etc. So is it important to go and see the dog, and should they get rid of this whole color concern? Yeah, it's good when the dog has some color.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. But what about the health? Can we talk health concerns? Because this dog is anything man-made, it's gonna have some issues.
It's kind of crazy because I had spoken in previous podcasts about my father raising king pigeons, right?
Yeah.
And I always noticed this. Well, it wasn't like I noticed, it's just a fact. The stronger birds, right, were like the blacks, the main colors compared to like the recessives or the dilutions. And when you could get a diluted or recessive bird to have a structure of like an all white or, a blue bar or a red check, just these common, basically saying, brindle, tri, fawn, and stuff like that. It was like that, the value of that diluted bird or recessive bird was like almost 10 times the amount it would normally be because the structures were just so shitty, right? And there's nothing worse. I don't care what color the dog is, if the structure ain't there, man.
Hey, confirmation equals quality as far as I'm concerned. We're putting it on our shirt here. So
Yeah.
You gotta have some confirmation, because when people don't know, if you ever had hip problems, that hip problem make your back hurt, it make your knees hurt, etc. That's why your dog gets stiff, arthritis, etc. High rears, all that shit. I don't care what breed. Now the French will have a roach back, but the bullies specifically, tight short back. Tight short back. Now the females, of course, are gonna be longer, because most of the time they're gonna carry a litter at some point in time. So it's just there's so many issues. That come with people focusing on things that, in my opinion, don't fucking really matter.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon for dogs to be dead at 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, which is still too young. It's too fucking young.
So we've identified the problems. What are some of the solutions you think that would help each community? As far as like, I don't know. When we start talking to my color, I know a big thing that's going on right now is the fluffy Frenchies. What do you think about those?
I don't dislike them.
Yeah.
But we are in Texas, and anything with a lot of hair who already has breathing issues probably ain't the move.
Yeah.
So do they look nice? Yes, I think they're worth $50,000 now.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's just another fucking color. That's what it comes out. Because I got Fluffy Burrow and L4 Z1T. Like, man, just shut up. These motherfuckers is killing me with this stuff. I think that people, to help the community, that they need to work together. That they need to learn from the mistakes that have been made and build. We talked at me and one of the old OGs the other day. We talked legacy, and we was actually talking about Papa Pip. I won't go into what we said, but that part. But the point is when you leave a legacy, the legacy actually is a springboard for people to do better.
Yeah.
So part of my initial, re-entrance and even working with some of these guys is to leave a legacy. Part of the legacy is we know that there are dogs who are in everyone's pedigree, depending on where your location is. Dax, for instance, you've got that pocket short somewhere in your pen. Dax is probably in there.
Yeah.
Back in the day, Holly Berry, Denzel, some other dogs were probably in there when they started this whole thing. King Kamali, etc. Paco, depending on what area you come in, these dogs were in your pets. Now the thing is I got to build a dog that can change things.
Yeah.
The dogs, for that matter, that can change and better things. So what my legacy needs to be specific with the dogs is we need to have the healthiest, conform, structured dogs possible, so that people can use our dogs to better their programs and better the breed, period. And I'm not going to sell my dog. Like I said, I'm not trying to puppy me. I have 20 dogs a year.
Yeah.
I know exactly what the price is going to be, and now we've got 20 on both sides between the bullies and the Frenchies, and that'll be that. And those 20 dogs a year should, and distributed correctly, save a lot of programs.
Yeah.
Save a lot of programs.
How important is the buyer to you?
Well, the customer ain't always right, but I can't give my dog to someone who's not going to do anything with it.
Yeah.
I just can't. I have no interest in that. I mean, there are people.
Even if they gave you the right what you're asking.
There's no right amount of money. There is no, there's a woman in the AKC right now who's won Westminster 3 or 4 times. She lets none of her dogs go before they're 4 months old. She's got 300 titles. She's been offered $100,000. She does not give a shit how much money you're talking about. Her only interest, matter of fact, she won't even give you a dog unless it is fixed, because she refuses to allow you to breed. And if you do breed, she's like, and this is all written down. You go to a website and see for yourself. If you do breed, you have to be mentored by her.
Yeah.
She's not playing though, but she's a winner. And so people want her blood, and they're Avendors. I believe that they're Avendors, Frenchie blood, but she's like, no, I don't care about the money. She really enjoys the showing, the breeding, the quality, the integrity of the dog. That's all that matters to her.
Yeah, but look at it. She don't have to chase money.
No.
The byproduct of it is that she's in high demand,
Yeah, and she don't even stutter dogs out like that. That's the thing. You go, God, like, what's the ego? Man, what's the point of getting a dog from this woman? And she breeds only AKC colors, and people who familiar with AKC, they're not color dogs. They're not like, that ain't the thing. That ain't the move. They matter of fact, you can't even show blue, I don't think, in the AKC. And quite a few other colors. They're very strict about what's allowed and what's not allowed.
Sure.
So I think we got to work. I think we got to work together, man. We got to look at the problems like any business and create solutions. Get some of the best dogs and work through some of those issues, and know that at generation 3 or 4 we'll have some things that we can build off of, and then keep doubling up and make some more.
So right now, in your mind, who would you say have the top 3 to 5 programs that really catch your eye in your opinion?
We talking health. I think Bossy at the end of the there's a lot of, no knock to them, but she, it's more scattered. And I know that she knows the importance of the pedigree because.
I'm Trevor, this is Stan, and we want to...
I'm this motherfucker don't mind.
Go ahead and lead that, I guess.
Hey, listen, people. Sometimes our topics get a little bit longer. We don't want to cut it just at 30. If we're really rolling, we keep this thing going. Therefore, at the end of our YouTube, you will see, hey, jump on the links listed below. Follow us on Spotify.
Sure.
Apple.
Sure.
Where else? Google.
Wherever else you guys listen us at.
Yeah, wherever we're listed at, and continue to follow and listen to the show, whatever we're talking about. Hopefully you enjoy the topics. Stay tuned. Appreciate you guys' support.
Yeah, and as always, man, leave us a comment, subscribe, share. In the comments or in the reviews, also, leave us some topics that you would like us to discuss. We don't hold back, so if you want us to talk about something, be sure to leave it there. So, as always,
Team X Dog Strong.